And welcome to a special edition of the Two Solitudes podcast. I'm Dwayne Rollins here live and from the ACC, actually, just outside. Just finished the Giovinco press conference, introducing him as the latest member of Toronto FC. We have some sound that we're going to share of that's coming up soon. But in the meantime, we have Kevin on the line here. We're going to talk about it a bit before we get into that. Kevin, how are things down your way today?
I've been really busy on Twitter, just writing Italian lyrics of Drake songs all morning.
It's funny, one of the last questions in the scrums was Drake involved, and Betzbatchenko just laughed and went, I don't know. And that was that. So that was funny. I don't know if the sound's on that or whether I turned the phone off by then, but alas, no Drake at the press conference today.
Wow. How was the feeling in the press conference? Was it compared to Altador just a couple of days ago?
It was a little more, the Altador conference was a little bigger, if anything, and I think that speaks to a lot of things. I think that more of his family was here and stuff like that. The player wasn't here himself. Of course, he's still Juve for the remainder of the year, and that's on today that he will be in Italy until July, until the July transfer window opens up and they can transfer him back in. So without him here, without the star attraction at play, I think that reduced the numbers a little bit, but this still is a major media market, of course, and this is a major player in a big Italian community, so there were still numbers there. It was a little more casual, I would say, because we had a little bit longer audience with Betzbatchenko and Greg Vanney. I thought it was interesting, a little more informative, a lot of the nuggets that I think that people will get from the scrums that you'll hear after Kevin and I talk here.
Another question for you, Dwayne. Giovinco's a really younger DP. He comes into the league in his prime. How is the vibe towards that? Because he's probably going to be the bring most on the pitch of all the DPs we've seen lately.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was stressed a lot during the press conference. There was a dog here for us. It was stressed a lot in the press conference that they wanted to stress the fact that they had a 27-year-old and distracted by a small poodle. I apologize. It is a big deal, and Betzbatchenko talked about what this meant for the league and what this meant for the type of players that he could attract. And he spoke to it throughout it that there was just, it blew his mind as someone that was involved at the league office for many years, that he was able to attract and the type of players that they were able to attract. There is a bit of a play-by-play from both Vanney and Betzbatchenko of how this thing happened. Both of them expressed surprise that they were able to get a guy like this. So absolutely, the 27-year-old aspect is a huge deal. Now, that said, and I'm sure that this is going to be the follow-up from a lot of people, is there was a lot of cynicism as well. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me 60,000 times, right, when it comes to TFC. And certainly there was a question about whether, Giovinco was a guy that understood what this was going to be, whether he was a guy that was going to want to go back to Italy in a year. All of those questions came up as well.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room. It's probably addressed in the interviews, but the big Brazilian elephant, what's going to happen with Gilberto?
Yeah, there were some interesting tidbits for those that are MLS geeks in this, and they get into the rules. First off, the first thing that Betzbatchenko stressed is that they have to be in league compliance by March 1st. Of course, right now, and he additionally followed that up by saying that the league was informing them that they needed to have 3 DPs on the roster. Now, of course, this is all before the CBA negotiations are done, and they're not going to drop that in the middle of a press conference in Toronto. They're not going to announce the 4th DP, right? So take that with a grain of salt. The other thing that was confusing some people out there was that whether they needed to have the 3DP compliance situation in place by March 1st, or whether that would hold off until Giovinco came here, which is in July, of course. And Betzbatchenko confirmed that, in fact, he is not a DP on TFC's book until July. So that does give a little bit more of a leeway for dealing with the Gilberto situation. If, in fact, they are playing under the assumption that they're going to get a 4th DP spot, they will at least be able to get through the end of the CBA negotiations before they need to make a decision on him. They don't need to move him. Now, Kirk Larson of the Toronto Sun has reported that it is his belief that TFC is entertaining offers for him, monetary sale options, and in fact he's gone so far to suggest that was always in the cards, that Gilberto was here for a short stay and was going to move on. That's something that I've talked about before, that he's kind of a flipper. It's just going to move from club to club to club through his career. So we'll see on Gilberto. Certainly right now, if the situation has not changed before July 1st and there is still only 3 DPs allowed by MLS rules, then certainly he's going to have to be moved. He is the odd man out in this scenario.
I got another question, Dwayne. You spoke about cynicism earlier. Let's continue in that vein. Were the term playoff ever used today?
Yeah, of course it was. And they talked about how they made a commitment to the fans last year that they were going to spend and do what they needed to do to make this club competitive. Now, Greg Vanney went a step further. He said, my goal is to not make the playoff, but to make this team a championship contending team. And this is something that will make certain people that want to just snark and be partisan, they'll laugh at that, and that's fine. And that's certainly TFC has earned that those punchlines over the year with mistakes that they've made in the past. I'd be the first to point them out. However, I do believe that if you look at this and you objectively take a step back and take the cynicism away, they most certainly are doing things at a level that other MLS clubs other than LA, and New York perhaps, aren't doing. They are, whether they're the right decisions, that's always going to be the question, but I think that it is somewhat inaccurate to suggest that they aren't working with the assumption that they are trying to find a way to get this team to a level that's beyond simply making a playoff.
No, absolutely, because we saw Montreal sign a defender in the weekend as a DP, Laurent Simon from the Standard de Liège in Belgium. A great defender, probably going to be one of the best in the league, but it's still many levels below a Giovinco or even an Altidore for the stance.
Yeah, and I was obviously busy, and I was tweeting out, and I was seeing some of the reaction on Twitter. I know that the Italian community is very excited about this, both here and in Montreal.
Yeah, people are like, yeah, we're happy. Like, there's a lot of Juve fans in Montreal. I was like, yeah, we're gonna get to see him a lot, but unfortunately, he's gonna be wearing red instead of blue.
And it certainly is a bit of a coup there. Now, the question was asked, and it's why has TFC never gone this route before? Because of the Italian community is massive here, and I can tell you from firsthand experience that although there is some Italians in the crowd, obviously, I think it is underrepresented in terms of the season ticket holders. And they did make the claim today, and I don't know if this is in my audio or whether it was on the stream, but the commercial director of MLSE suggested that they had sold 1,000 season tickets today based on the news of this signing coming out. And you can assume most of those season tickets were with folks with an I or an O at the end of their names. You can make that probably assumption, although maybe that's unfair. There's probably a few that weren't, but it's certainly something that's very exciting to me.
There's a lot.
There's a few others, yes. The point is, I think a lot of them may have had some Italian descent in them, which is fine.
Juventus is such a huge club too, Dwayne. It's going to help Toronto to bridge that Euro snob gap that every MLS team always have in big markets. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's been my experience in this city that even though there are a lot of fans of TFC compared to other markets, that Euro disconnect is a major factor in becoming, the most popular team. We've had internal discussions, just kind of barstool kind of conversations about, what is the most popular team in the city of Toronto, and where does TFC fit into that? I think certainly if you were going to rank the 5 most popular teams in Toronto, I think the TFC would be in the top 5, but I'm not sure they'd be number 1. And I think that reaching out to these communities in a way that also makes them win. And they did actually have a question about what the marketing campaign was going to be, a bloody big deal again or whatever, and they kind of laughed at that and said they were going to look more at the steak rather than the sizzle this time.
I called it the Grande Affari.
Yeah, and John Molnaro from Sportsnet also, his article starts like that today. Look, it's the reality of North American fandom is that seeing these stars is a big major component to marketing the league and getting people to buy into MLS as a worthwhile commodity. That's standard across the league. And in TFC's case today, what you'd argue back is at least they went with a 27-year-old, not a 37-year-old.
Hey, was that a dig at us here?
No. More of a dig at the history of the league.
Sure.
Which I have said this the other day that I don't think that they're necessarily, that they push back against that retirement league label, but at the same time, the actions speak louder than words. And in a lot of cases, they do sign these guys over here because they are easy to market. They are easy to push the agenda forward and get more money coming into the league. But ultimately, the goal has to be to, if in fact you believe that this league is capable of really pushing its agenda and becoming a better league than it is now, and at least catching up to Mexico, then you need to be getting younger guys in. And this is, whether it's an outlier or not, we'll see, but certainly an example that at least in this one case, they were able to get a guy on the right side of 30 for once.
Well, for in the last week, even Altador is pretty still young, considering DP age usually when they come into the league. So the last week for Toronto really changed the DP landscape because what they're doing is different than uh, even the Galaxy are doing. Lampard, Gerrard is not that young. Lampard Frignac is not that young. Villi either. But Giovinco and Altador, it's different. I think it's slowly changing to eventually what the famous top league in the world by 2022. You'll need that in your arsenal. Players that are between 25 and 32 that are in their prime, giving you everything. You need 25 that's being generous. It could be closer to 20 because in the real world of football, that's where the prime is. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, well, the PFC's average age of DPs right now is 26, which is certainly an interesting tidbit in that. I mean, people are going to be cynical of this, and there's going to be a lot of, well, PFC will find a way to screw it up out there. And again, I'm not sure that's based completely on logic. It's based on perception of past history that has little to nothing to do with the current management group. However, really, when it comes to PFC, they matter so much. Perception is reality, and they have to prove that they can get things right on the pitch. And I think that when you look at the roster right now, there's certainly it has to lend some hope for TFC fans, but there's still some gaping holes at the back, and there's still some holes in this roster that need to be filled. And I touched on that with them, and they certainly you'll hear it with the question that I asked Betzbatchenko in the scrum. That it sounds like they're aware of that, and there may be some movement in the near future before the end of the transfer window to address the shortcomings at the back.
All right, I think Dwayne, after this long conversation about what they were saying, I think it's time to hear what they were actually saying today.
All right, cheers.
Greg Vanney.
And be able to add some support to the other cast, in terms of helping everybody around them to be a little bit better. And so for us, again, as we said, we have Michael, who comes from a little bit deeper position, likes to face forward, Giovinco, who is the playmaker and can also create in the attacking third, and then we have the finisher. So for me, this is in terms of our DPs, this is the completion of what we wanted to do this offseason. Now for us is to continue adding and developing the pieces we have on our team to make sure that the rest of the group is on par.
Greg, you start the season on the road with a road trip, plus missing a key player in Sebastian.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on how to sort of keep in the mix and above the line for that first part of the season? It's going to be very challenging.
Yeah, I think it's for us. It's about our system and how we want to play. It's about our organization, both in possession and in transition and out of possession. There's a lot this year that we want to be better at in terms of our discipline and our organization, so that we can protect each other in these transition moments. So we'll understand how to possess the ball, and we'll understand how to protect ourselves. And by the time Sebastian comes, we'll be plugging in a key piece into what we're already doing, who can then create some more ideas. But as our group moves forward, we will have a very clear idea of what we're doing on the field, both on the road and at home when we get back home.
Greg, how important is it that management once again open their wallet and let you guys go out and decide which player you guys want to attack and get?
The commitment that they've made in the past years, and really since this club since its inception, is second to none. Really, it's been an amazing process working with them through this whole off season. And for us, again, it's about a vision now. We set forth on a path last year. Some things didn't work out, but we've clarified our vision and what it's going to look like on the field and the types of people that we want off the field. And we've gone out and we've found those guys, and the ownership has been nothing but supportive in that process. And now it's for us to turn this into a product on the field that can be successful. And for me, it's not just about getting in the playoffs. This is about being a championship team. And for us, as we said, having three DPs that are in their prime, it's about for us setting a new level for this league that we believe there's more in the league than maybe that has been seen in the last 20 years. So we're going to try to push the level as high as we can.
What makes him special? Is it his ability on the ball, his vision, his creativity?
Yeah, I think all of the above. I think there are not a ton of players in the world who can pick up the ball in the tightest of spaces and still be able to eliminate the first defender, draw people into them, which then frees up other people. He has the ability to finish when given a window of space. He can finish or he can slip a pass to somebody. So his creative ability along with his finishing ability is very unique, and for us, exactly what we were looking for in the side. Actually, more than what we were hoping for this year. But he's that piece that is key.
you surprised you got him?
A little bit, we made a very short list in the off season and some of those targets we thought were maybe not reachable. It was really an interesting process. We went and we watched him live, and our scouts came away going, "That's a great idea, but there's no way we're getting anywhere near this guy." And then they actually we tried to reach out to him. And then come to find out 3 or 4 weeks later, they actually reached back out to us saying, no, Sebastian would have interest in coming. And they started to drive the process a little bit. And as soon as we knew they were in, we were all in and trying to make it happen. And it came together very quickly. Sometimes these deals take a lot of time, but when both sides are looking for the same solution, then these things happen quickly. And we were all kind of pinching ourselves in the end to make sure that this was real, but for sure it came together.
And what kind of personality is he on the short video message? He seemed a bubbly personality. Is he an outgoing type? Do you think he'll embrace the role of being one of the faces of the franchise?
Yeah, and that's something he looks forward to. I think it's even though he's been a long-standing player at Juventus, he was a piece of the puzzle for them. He comes here being a major piece for us and a focal point for us in our attack. And obviously, that's something that is interesting for him in a community with a large Italian population. He wants to step up and be that representation and be that guy on the field. And so, everything I know of him and when in the discussions as well as speaking with people is he is a pleasure to be around. He is the friendliest of guys, a bit of a jokester at times, but loves playing the game and should be a great addition to us, but we've heard nothing but positive things. We spoke to some players at other clubs that said, listen, if you have the opportunity with this guy, you get him. There's no two ways about this. He is a great individual and obviously a great player.
There's a lot of skepticism out there. How would you say this deal is different from, let's say, the bloody big deal last year?
Yeah, again, I think last year with Jermaine, we're making the big sell on what MLSE is all about, and we're trying to sell him to come here. This is a great move for your career. Versus Giovinco, who is, like Tim said, he's meeting us halfway. He was as much a part of driving this process, he and his representation, as we were of selling sort of what MLSE is about. I think that and the fact that he's in his prime, that he's coming to a city and he is a big representation of a big part of the city, that and all the character side of things that we've gotten from everybody around him, it feels different. I think the personality and from him is different, and he's a little bit of a giver, which is important in this, because we all have to give a little bit of ourselves to make this successful, and he understands that as well as anybody.
Coach, just a few more. Getting stronger in this area, weaker in this area. Did you start strategizing this way? Did you have a chance to see these players in person?
Well, I think we look at our team and it's the complements of everybody. And so as we continue to add a couple more pieces, we have a couple more targets, but it's all with a vision of how we want to play. We've already set forth in that at the end of the season. Adding Giovinco is a big part of that. And now, again, we need to continue pressing forward for the guys that we're after and that we're hopefully quickly to close on. And then I think we become, as much as anything, a very well-balanced team who can attack and create issues for the opposition, but can also defend. We don't want to be a one-sided team that's getting into eight to 7 games. We want to be a good, solid defending team, and we want to be in possession of the ball, and we want to score goals. But we also want to be stable, especially starting with 7 games on the road. We have to have a clear understanding of what that looks like.
Did he know much about Toronto when you were sitting with him? Did you have to tell him a little about the city, or was he aware of MLS and Toronto FC?
No, he had a good feel for what Toronto was about. His agent had been out to Toronto previously, a couple of years back, with another player. I think just visiting maybe in the summer, or maybe it was a friendly match that they were playing against Toronto at the time, and his impression of the city was obviously amazing for himself and had a great experience, and it was really part of his vision that Sebastian would fit so well into this city and that he would love it, and his discussion with Sebastian, I think, is partly what led to us really meeting halfway. Sebastian hasn't been out here yet, but I think all the people he trusts and everything he's seen from us is helped him to understand that this is a great opportunity for him as well.
Why do you think it didn't work last year with Jermaine?
I think it was it's difficult to say, but I think Jermaine came in and he was He was outstanding at the beginning of the year. Jermaine he's a finisher first and foremost, and he was finishing, I think, 1 goal for every 2 chances basically. But I think the team fell into a little bit of some hardship. He wasn't selected into the World Cup team. He then picked up an injury. I think a little frustration started to build up, and in the end, a player decides this isn't the right place for me at this given moment, and he had a lot of other things around him, other factors around him that I think led to him wanting to return, and it doesn't always work. Don't hold anything against him. That's part of the game. And if he wouldn't have figured that out or decided this wasn't the right thing, we wouldn't be standing here today talking about this player and Giovinco and Josie as well. So things happen. I think we're landing very much on our feet and looking forward to the upcoming season.
So the impression I get, though, is that Giovinco has more of a commitment to this year than
well, it's tough to say. I don't. Giovinco's commitment to what we're doing is second to none. He is excited. He's in a key moment in his career. He's looking long term, as we are. That was one of the things with our DPs. We want to build a team. And a team that will be together for a long time. It's part of maybe some of our challenges over the years is so much turnover. But getting our 3 young DPs is to get 3 guys who are going to be together for some time now and continue to add the complementary pieces around him. And I can only speak for what Sebastian has said to us is he is beyond excited. He wishes he could be here tomorrow, but obviously he has some things he needs to accomplish between now and July.
Tim Betzbatchenko and Sebastian Giovinco.
moving forward for the next 3 or 4 years?
Really important because if you looked at the teams in MLS who've had great success, they've kept the core together. And one of the things we're trying to do is create a sense of stability and continuity at TFC. And I think everyone knows that we have not had that today. So I think up until now we have not made a significant number of moves. I think we've drafted players through the draft who will push for positions, but we also have the USL Pro team that they can get minutes in games on. We have our homegrown signing. We picked up a player in the sort of the reentry expansion phase of the season last year. So it's all coming together nicely. So,
what have you told Gilberto, Tim? What have you said to Gilberto about his future?
On our roster know that there's going to be changes and there's going to be competition at every position. But right now we're still reviewing the roster. Obviously the rules could change, but Sebastian's coming in the summer, so we have some time, especially before the March 1 compliance date, to have everything figured out. So I don't think any team in this league is budget compliant right now or roster compliant. And it's one of those things that the league gives you some leeway in the off season to have, so you can actually bring players into your preseason, maybe more than you currently have in your roster, so that you can figure out what the best gel of all the players are.
I was talking to a few ticket holders, and they were telling me they're a little bit skeptical. Every year they've been kind of disappointed. How's this year going to be different with Giovinco?
They have every right to be skeptical just because they have never made the playoffs. We have never delivered that for them. But what I can say is we're working hard every day to put out a winning side. This time it's about getting a team that collectively works well together. It's not one piece. It's not just Seba. It's not just Michael or Josie or Joe or Justin. It's how they come together to work together as a team to win. In this league, it's a grind. There's a lot of travel. You have to be able. Not to mention the international games sandwiched in the middle. You have the Amway or U.S. Open Cup for the American team. So there's a lot that's thrown at the players during the year, and so you need a team that's willing to come together, be unified, stay strong, especially down the stretch in MLS, and that's what the signing's about.
You said that you expressed to Giovinco that commitment was important to the city. How did those conversations go? What he will do to commit to the city? What makes you feel that he will be more committed than Jermaine Defoe?
Well, I think for him, this wasn't about just coming to TFC. This was about a larger project of being a trailblazer for the league as the league grows, and he thinks he can help take it to the next level. But a part of that was how he'd fit in with the city, and I think he knows that there's a very sophisticated fan base in soccer, and so that'll know his game, right? There's one thing to go out there and just kick the ball and run fast. Some teams in MLS play, but there's another way of playing the game, which is to hold the ball, to be creative, to unlock defenses with clever little passes, and that's what Sebastian's about. The second part is that he's really excited about the Italian-Canadian base here in Toronto. and I truly do feel like they're going to welcome him like family. And we've already reached out to certain members of the community, and they are welcoming him with open arms.
Jim, what do you think the market value for him would be? Clearly saved yourself several $1 million by doing this in July transfer.
Yeah, that's right. I think that it would be. I'm not going to guess what the transfer fee would be. I think you can probably go and look at the offers that Juventus has been entertaining in the press. But he's obviously a player that plays international soccer for the Italian national team. So that's going to demand a transfer fee that's commensurate with his market value, which is very high, especially in the January transfer window.
This is before your time, but why do you think Toronto FC hasn't gone after a star Italian player? It seems like a knack.
I don't know if they never have gone after him. I think that it really speaks to how this league has changed from the years in the past. I think now we're at a turning point. I think what this organization has done in the past year has put the league on the map. Right or wrong, Jermaine Defoe helped put this club and the entire league on the map. And I think people sort of took notice, including players in Spain and France and Russia and Italy. I mean, I'm getting calls regularly from players that I never thought would be possible a few years ago when I was working at the league office. So, again, I just think that speaks to how this league has changed. It's a great moment. The league's vision and what they're trying to do is be a league of choice, to be among the top leagues by 2022. And it's going to take players like Sebastian to choose Major League Soccer for them to achieve their vision.
Tim, some Italian businessmen already reached out to this was the right choice. How important was that for you to get that back into some real successful Italian businessmen here?
I think the most important thing is for him to feel that we're going to take care of him, just like we take care of all our players. I think we do it at a different level than other MLS teams. It's very much a 360 view of how we treat the player. We don't pamper them, but we give them the resources so they can focus on the pitch. That's the most important. So when you go home, they're taken care of. They have a sort of a network around them that helps them focus on what they need to do off the field, so that when they get on the field, that 100% of the attention is on winning on that day.
Have you talked to Sebastian about it? He's talked to other players in MLS, so he knows what the grind is like and the difference of playing in Europe to playing here.
Yes, no, he's spoken to players. He's done his homework, and he's heard all good things. So I think it's if he had heard otherwise, I don't think he'd be here today. So I think he's excited about the possibility.
What does this do to your payroll this year?
Payroll is in the budget?
Yes.
Well, there's a standard salary budget for designated players, so it's roughly $400,000. So right now, it adds obviously a player a significant budget charge, and so again, we're just reviewing the roster, reviewing the budget, and we'll need to make all moves by March 1 to be compliant.
Will this be do you think it'll be the largest payroll when you add in the DP in the league?
I actually don't, I only know what the salary cap is. I don't know exactly what all the other teams are paying the players, so I can't speak to their payroll. What I do know is that we're committed from the new stadium with everything that we're giving back to the fans. It's important that our business model works, not just from the expenditure side, but from the revenue side. And I think that we have a model that can take the league to the next level.
Is there a possibility that Gilberto will be with the team after March? Are you looking to move him?
No, I think that we're in the sense we're reviewing everything now. We're still speaking with the league office, and so they've said to plan for 3 DPs, so that's what we'll do. But obviously we have some time.
Does this deal happen if he's in the starting 11 every single game with Juve this season, or is it the fact that he was kind of I wouldn't say falling out of favor, but he wasn't starting every game?
I can't speak to that. You'll have to ask the player that. I do think that he obviously went on the field and scored 2 amazing goals last week, and so I know he's part of the fabric of the team. It's not like he's an outsider at Juventus. He's very much liked by all his teammates. He's a likable guy. So I don't know. That's something you have to ask him. I don't know if this happens. If not, what I do know is we made great efforts to sign him, but he also met us halfway, and I think that's the difference between this year and last year.
When you said halfway, several times, are we talking in salary terms or marketing stuff, or what? What are some of the other considerations?
I think what I'm speaking of is the commitment,
okay.
The mentality. Like, what are you getting into? What is this project about? Right? I think it's the understanding that the league is different than other league. It spans an entire continent, not just a country.
How did you sell the lifestyle here? Because I don't think he's been here yet, right? Or to Toronto.
You know, he hasn't been recently. I don't know if he's ever been, but I think he hasn't been here recently. And I think obviously Juventus has been in North America touring in the past. So I think he knows what it's like from obviously his representatives, his family who have been here, and to be honest, knowing where he was and what he's doing in Italy, I don't think it's a whole lot different in some ways.
Are you confident? Sorry, go ahead, Kurt.
Sorry, where did you meet with him and his family? Was it like around the dinner table, passing around glasses of wine? Or?
Well, it's in some ways yes, in other ways no. It was at a restaurant in Turin, and the customary and traditional things you do at Italian meals were done and said.
You confident with the quality of the back line right now, or are you looking to add there still?
Obviously we drafted a number of players that can fit on the back line that we're hoping that can help push the guys on our current starting lineup. It's really important that we have competition at all positions, and I don't think we had the depth last year to get through the tough times. We had a number of injuries in the back line, so I think we're getting there. I'm not sure we're there yet.
Tim, what was just for the sake of the parody story, what was the timeline like for point of first contact, and how quickly was this deal actually done?
I think we identified him as a target back at the end of last season, because I think I noticed, and everyone on our technical staff and the front office noticed, that we had a sort of a gap there in the attacking midfielder position. So that's when we started assembling the names for that position.
How did you communicate with him at the time at the dinner? Picturing like Goodfellas here with you guys all around the table, and is there
a lot of eye contact, a lot of smiles and nodding, and no, I mean we have his family, people speak English, his representative speaks English, their whole group. It's not just Andrea, there's Luca, and there's a number of people around him. He knows a little, and I can pick up a little bit of his Italian, so there were some things that were said that we both understood.
Were you surprised you got him?
He has one kid, and he's in a long-term relationship right now.
Were you surprised you got him? I mean, like as you said, this is a player that many top clubs and top leagues, had their eyes on. Is a very useful player.
Was I surprised? I think that there was a roadmap last year that we created where anything's possible now. I think noticing that the attitude toward the league has changed. Anything's possible in this league if you really commit to it and you help them understand what this league's about and where it's going. I think I didn't really realize that until last year when we actually signed a number of the players, and I said, this year we're going to double down, right? We told our fans we're committed to a winning side. I said if we're going to sell Defoe, we're going to bring back players with like quality and like evaluation. So I think that's what we shown and what we did. But again, at the end of the day, it's not one player. It's about them coming together and putting out a performance that ends up with more wins than losses this year.
Was it just you that went over, or did you take Mr. Lewicki go? Or?
In the most recent trip, it was just me.
Any Drake phone calls?
No Drake phone calls, not that I'm aware of. Good to know. I didn't know what happened last time.